Hello YouTube, this is Dozer here, coming at you with another deck tech video for Flesh and Blood for Prism, as always. And this deck is going to be titled Cheap Dates, because this deck is all about playing cheap cards, flying pretty low and under the radar, getting an efficient attacks in, while trying to close out the game as quickly as possible in an aggressive fashion, with flexible hands, while having some juice in the end game to try and finish things out. So let's get started. We playing Prism, of course. Prism is the Light Illusionist hero. Can pay 2, make Spectral Shield token by banishing a card from Soul. Very useful ability, and can run Light Illusionist and generic cards in her deck. We'll be running Luminaris. This is her weapon. This is the Light Illusionist weapon. It gives all of our Illusionist attacks go again, as well as turning our auras into 1 strength weapons that attack for free. The auras get go again as well, and so any illusionist attack we control gains go again if we have a yellow in our pitch, which we will try to have as often as possible. We run Hail of Illumination in the headpiece. This combos with our Vestige of Soul to enable explosive turns with a couple of our cards, and we normally save Halo for a very pivotal turn. It's not something used lightly. Vestige of Soul, very useful, very good at generating resources. Only block with it as a last resort. I run Nullrune Gloves and Dreamweavers as my 2 gloves. Nullrune for Chain, as well as the Prism Mirror, and Dreamweavers for pretty much everybody else. Really helpful for when we make big phantasms. And then we run Footsteps. Footsteps is a key card to allow us to play out our turn, even if we have a phantasm get broken. By paying 1 resource, you can also use it to block for 1. Or rather, you can increase its defense by 1 for the turn by paying 1. It's a pretty good card. So those are the equipments. So the main deck here. We run all 9 copies of Wartune Herald. Wartune Herald is a very efficient card by being a 5, 6, or 7 attack card for blue, yellow, or red respectively. Costs 1, has Phantasm, and if it hits, it goes into our soul. This card is amazing. We give it go again by pitching a yellow and floating a resource. And then we can use our footsteps to get our action point back if someone pops that. Or we can use that resource to keep up the pressure. This card's incredible. To follow up on that card, we run a number of other heralds. So we run 6 copies of Herald of Protection, yellows and blues. We don't really want to be seeing red heralds. We have more efficient cards we want to be playing. So the yellows and blues are good for pitch, and then we can play them in the late game. However, we do run 3 blue triumphs. It's very good at being able to attack with impunity because 6 blocks won't stop it, so it's a bit more safe to throw down. We also run 3 blue rebirths. This card's incredibly good at extending our late game because we don't really want to play this early game. We want to play this more in the late game to get an Erudition back or to get Spears of Seriality back. We run 3 copies of Herald of Erudition. This card's amazing. If it hits, it nets us 2 cards to draw. It also goes to our soul and has Dominate, so this is a very good card for pressuring our opponent. On top of that, we run 6 copies of Spears of Seriality. We run everything except the blues. The blues just aren't efficient enough to run, and this is a really key card for either pitching for yellow or swinging with red or yellow in order to get go again naturally without really needing to rely on Luminaris, as well as just being a very efficient card because it costs 1. To round that out, we'll run 3 copies of Red Phantasmify. This card is effectively another copy of our Spears of Seriality. It buffs our next attack by 5. It costs 1. So it's a huge attack buff, and it's very efficient. And it does give whatever we're buffing Phantasm, so you have to be careful about that. But if you're running Dreamweavers, you can save that for a Phantasmify turn, and it should work out pretty well for you. Then we run 2 copies of Prismatic Shield Yellow. I do like running the yellow versions for right now just because I use them for pitch, and then in the late game, you get a lot more value out of those then when you have a lot of blues to help pay for them. I would not play these unless you are pitching them. I would run reds in kind of like the sideboard, and as I do, and we'll show you later, but yellows for pitch, use them in the late game. I run 3 copies of Tome of Divinity. This card's amazing with Halo and Vestige. You can set it up in the arsenal. You can use it to pitch and save it for late game in order to have an explosive turn once you've gotten through things. We'll also run 3 copies of Soul Shield. Soul Shield is a key card in this deck because 1, it blocks for 6, so you can pitch any yellow card in order to get a very efficient block for 6. And once the attack chain closes, it goes to your soul. So that can help us turn on our Tome of Divinity using Vestige on our opponent's turn. So it's very efficient at doing that. It's also a defense reaction that blocks for 6. I mean, that's huge. Then we run 3 copies of Celestial Cataclysm. We have tons of ammunition to put into our soul, so being able to spend that in the late game by paying 0 and swinging for 7 with Go Again naturally is just amazing. We also are perfectly happy to pitch these early in order to set up our late game, and it's a really good card in the mirror as well. Breaks, Phantasms, and it's an amazing card in this list. Then I run 6 Illuminates. I run reds and yellows. The reason for this is that it is a cheap card, fits into our curve extremely nicely, pitches for yellow, blocks for 3, so it's never a bad card to have. You know, if you've got like a red illuminate in hand, you're like, I'm not really going to want to play that next turn. You can just use it to block, and it's perfectly fine. If you buff this with something, it can be just effectively another huge Herald. Very, very good card in this list. Very effective at blocking, just really efficient. I then run 1 Energy Potion. Energy Potion is a great one of because on a lot of these turns you'll have Go Again at the end of your turn, and so you'll be wasting it. And so even if you don't play it on an early turn, you can arsenal it, and whenever you have a free turn, you can just get it out of arsenal and save resources for later to help pay for some of your more expensive cards. Additionally, we run 3 yellow Sink Below. This is important for getting our Go Again from being yellow pitch, as well as being an efficient 3 blocker. I mean, that's normal block. And it helps us fix our hands by getting rid of cards we don't want to see at the moment. So it's very useful for that as well. And if you pitch it in the early game, drawing in the late game is perfectly fine because that's when you really need to be finding the perfect cards for your hand. Then for the last 6 cards of the main deck, and this is where the deck really kind of separates from a normal Prism list to a more aggressive, very low to the ground Prism list. So we run 3 copies of Red Nimblism. This card could be 3 copies of Yellow Captain's Call, but the 1 damage really makes a big difference over the course of the game, as a lot of games are won by inches. So Red Nimblism is really good. It's 0 cost, buffs our next attack action. Captain's Call could be a good choice, but I'm currently a fan of the Nimblisms, and in order to round that out, we have 3 red Push the Points. Now, Push the Points is a 1 cost that attacks for 4, blocks for 2, and if the last attack in the chain that you did hits, it gains +2. So when you swing with a Spectral Shield for 1, they're probably not going to block it, and even if they do, there's a million other ways you could attack them. So following that up with a 6 strength non-phantasm attack is just brutal. You're effectively coming at them for 1 cost, the same strength as a normal yellow Herald, like a Herald of Triumph. They can't pop it no matter what they do. And yeah, it doesn't have Go Again naturally, but you want to play it last anyway. And that's kind of where the Captain's Call kind of comes in with the Nimblism, because if you have like an Illuminate, Push the Point in hand, it's really useful to be able to give one of them Go Again, but it's not necessary, and the Nimblism is quite good. So, just leave it up to your preference, but I haven't really found it being that big of a problem. And yeah, so this is a very efficient list where you are all about getting in efficient attacks by pitching 1 yellow, swinging with the War Tune, using the Go Again to swing into something big like a Push the Point, or buffing something beforehand with a Nimblism into a War Tune, or doing Phantasmify into a Spears. You got Spears and War Tune and Phantasmify, all as your opening plays, which you can then follow into with either another Spears, War Tune, or a Push the Point in an Illuminate or Nimblism as 0 cost to throw in there. Another reason why Energy Potion is good, sometimes after you attack with the War Tune and the Spears or something, you'll have the Go Again floating, and so being able to drop the energy potion there is the perfect opportunity to set up a bigger turn later. And then in the late game, you just want to be playing your other heralds. So hope you enjoyed this deck tech. I'd be happy to, before we go, I will walk you through one scenario to help explain my thought process behind these cards. So we will keep out a single Cataclysm for a yellow. We will keep out our Illuminate wherever it went. I guess it's here. Yep. We will keep our Nimblism here. We'll keep a Push the Point. We'll keep a Phantasmify, a Spears, and a War Tune. So, the reason we run all these cards is because normally if you're playing Prism, you're probably throwing something like a yellow Herald, like a yellow protection at someone, pitching a yellow, and you get the Go Again, and that's great. And then you might throw another one, right? You might pitch another card, and then you might swing with another Herald. Doesn't matter what it is. The point is you're attacking with 2 cards for 4. The total damage you're dealing is about 12 on average with 2 Heralds. If they break your first Herald, you normally will not have enough resources to keep attacking through it, especially if you have a hand of all yellows. If you have 1 blue, yes, you can keep going, but that really puts a hamper on your turn. However, if you were to say, pitch a yellow, attack with War Tune, you're now floating 1 resource. You're threatening like 6 damage on average, but you could be doing 7 or 5 or 6, just like a normal Herald would, but you have the 1 extra resource. Then you could let that combat chain close if you'd like. You can do Spears of Surreality with your other 1 resource. It's got Go Again. It's got 5 or 4 attack. And then you could follow that up with a 0 cost, such as an Illuminate. Or at any point beforehand, you could have simply Nimblismed. Or you could, instead of doing a Spears, instead of doing the Spears, you could do the Push the Point second. Or alternatively, you could play the Phantasmify first. So all that's only with 2 resources, which is honestly incredible. And if you had just like an energy potion floating, you blocked your like full hand except for 2 cards, you could still pop your energy potion and do Spears into War Tune, for instance. You can Arsenal, Nimblism, and Illuminate very easily because they're 0 cost. And fun fact, late game, your Cataclysm benefits from Nimblism as well. So it's a very efficient turn. You can attack for 7, and then you can attack for, assuming they don't block, you can attack for 5 again. So even if they don't block, it doesn't matter. That's 12 damage. 4 more is 16 off of 1 yellow pitch right here. Alternatively, you could do yellow pitch into War Tune. Well, you would do a Nimblism into War Tune. That's 10 coming at them with Phantasm. And then if that hits, you can attack for 6 more. That's another 16 damage with 4 cards. Obviously, these are reds, but like you're getting way more damage on average than you are with your Heralds. And then if you even do your Phantasmify into, say, like this, you could do Spears of Seriality. If they pop it, great. If they don't, great. You can use your other resource. If they don't pop it, to Phantasmify and do your Illuminate for 9. So that's a total of 14, which is perfectly acceptable. Or you could, if they popped your Spears, you can use your point to your action point back, attack with your Illuminate, and then bank your Phantasmify for later, or your War Tune, whatever. So yeah, very efficient turns. Give it a try. Let me know how you find it plays. Play against chains, play against the field. I want to know how this deck plays, and I can only test with so many games a day. So please give it a try and let me know what you think. And I hope you enjoyed Prism's cheap dates. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.